The year is 2372. Chief O'Brien, Lieutenant Commander Dax, and Dr. Bashir are on the docking bay where the puddle jumper is being held. O'Brien scans the area with tricorder to check if it's safe. To enter, the scan says that it is safe. They went in and approaches the puddle jumper. Jadzia went in first scanning her way. She was getting no readings why the ship is offline. But the zero-point energy is coming from the cockpit.
Whoever created the alternate reality drive is a genius.
Jadzia smiles as she stares at the puddle jumper with her jaw dropping to the floor like a kid in a candy store.
Scientists here would never think outside of the box.
That's because Federation scientists don't have to think outside of the box,
Bashir says, shaking his head.
We're not the ones who get to play with toys like these.
Bashir glances at O'Brien, who gives him a knowing look.
So how do we get this thing back online?
Meanwhile, Jadzia continues to study the cockpit controls, her fingers itching to try out the new technology.
It's amazingly simple. I think I can get it started.
Jadzia says, running her hands over the familiar-looking flight controls. Miles O'Brien walks up the ramp of the puddle jumper, scanning with his tricorder to get a reading, but got nothing on the reading.
Not picking up anything,
O'Brien says as soon as he enters the ship. The ship itself comes to life as Miles sat down on the pilot's seat, as he swivels the chair to face the command console. Touch screen panels begins. To lit up, displaying the puddle jumper instruments, guidance system, and tactical system from a holographic heads-up display.
What did you touch?
Jadzia asks O'Brien. O'Brien replies with,
I didn't do anything. My tricorder is reading a zero-point energy and I can't get a fix on its location?
Sif shimmers on top of the cockpit controls, which did not startle the three officers, and looks at Miles O'Brien.
Chief, to operate this controls, you must have an ancient gene.
What gene?
Jadzia asked the hologram of a weird alien with huge eyes and a small, slim body.
The Ancient Technology Activation Gene, or ATA gene for short.
You're saying that I have the gene to operate this ship similar to this?
O'Brien paused and thought for a moment.
How cool is that?
Why? I never heard of such a thing.
Dr. Julian Bashir is clearly surprised and asks,
It's a genetic key. The ATA gene is always on, instructing various cells in the body to produce a serious protein and enzymes. It interacts with the skin, nervous system, and brain, enabling gene carriers to operate ancient technology by thought alone. And you, Chief, rank the highest.
Sif explained. With Dr. Julian Bashir intrigued, he asks Sif,
How do I know if I have this gene?
Sif glances at Bashir and replied,
According to ship sensors, you are not the carrier of the gene. Your reading are negative across the board.
How is that possible?
That confuses Jadzia for a moment. Bashir, on the other hand, scans his best friend with a standard Starfleet medical scanner.
Huh.
Oh, what, Julian?
My medical tricorder isn't reading anything.
Bashir says as he frowns upon the readout. Sif, on the other hand, stares at Julian with her big holographic eyes and uploaded the data from the medical tricorder and replies,
Of course, Dr. Bashir. Chief O'Brien, ATA gene is fused to his DNA. Your medical scanner is primitive.
Sif says with a hint of condescension, which Dr. Bashir replied defensively.
Hey, excuse me, it's not my fault we don't have access to that kind of technology.
On the back seat of the co-pilot side, a compartment. A 12 by 12 receptacle begins to synthesize a handheld device that Bashir took interest. It's a handheld medical scanner that's half the size of a human hand and has a translucent screen that glows with a soft hum and blue light. Bashir looks at the device curiously and grabs it from the receptacle. He turns it over, examines it, and asks Sif,
What's this?
It's a handheld medical scanner. It's a lot more advanced than the one you have.
Sif said. O'Brien glances at the medical scanner in Bashir's hand and studies the receptacle that produces it, which he found interesting.
And that is your version of a replicator?
O'Brien asked. Sif turns her head towards Bashir with a worried look.
I haven't been notified of a replicators in the vicinity.
O'Brien pulls up a file of a replicator on the holographic heads-up display of a spider-like metal creature and a human form in a side-by-side comparison, which got a chuckle from O'Brien.
Oh, sorry. I meant a device that can synthesize food and inanimate objects from scratch.
Oh, the Tauri Federation calls it a fabricator or synthesizer, not to confuse with a dead enemy.
Sif clarifies with a hint of humor in her voice. O'Brien scrolls through technical specs of the puddle jumper on the holographic heads-up display and comes up with a blinking alert notification. That needed his attention. He presses the alert. The HUD flickers to another system program called Stored Beam Memory Buffer, and it's blinking 4 individual life signs. As O'Brien taps on the button, an array of beams materialize as armored individuals. They were armored head to toe. 3 in black armor, dials and LED lights blinking on a LCD controls. On the shoulder patch that reads USS Nathan James, and upside-down V symbol, and a decal that reads Tauri Federation in small letters under the ship's name. Their individual names are Shepard, Green, and Chen, and they are unconscious. The other individual is wearing a tan spacesuit with a blue stripe covering the shoulder. The helmet is not tinted. Bashir can easily identify and have the same symbols on the shoulder patch that reads Tauri Federation Command in bold capital letters and a small font Research and Development under it. The green light on the LCD controls turns. Red, alerting Bashir, O'Brien, and Dax that 3 Tauri soldiers and a scientist are unconscious and in need of medical attention. Dax rushes to check their vitals while O'Brien and Bashir work on, trying to wake them up as Bashir took the helmet off from Shepard.
Miles, Jadzia, help me take their helmet off the other 2.
As soon as Bashir took the belt off of Shepard, Bashir didn't need a medical tricorder to get a condition on the person he is helping. There are some sort of burn marks on the right temple. He taps on his comm badge as he examines the bleeding from the ear and nostril.
Bashir to Ops.
Go ahead, Doctor.
I need an emergency site-to-site transport to sickbay.
Is everything all right, Doctor?
It's the voice of Captain Sisko.
Is the Chief and Dax okay?
Yes, sir, I can't explain it.
Bashir said as he tried to put his head around it.
There are 4 more new life signs in the shuttle bay.
Sif sees what is happening and immediately beams Shepard, McKay, Green, Chen, and Dr. Bashir to sickbay instead of waiting for Bashir to explain to his superiors.
What just happened?
O'Brien asks the hologram, which Sif respectively responds.
They were beamed to sickbay.
That's the conclusion of Chapter 1. If you like this and want more of this content, subscribe and follow.